I'm live. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for some people to show up. Let's see what happens here. One person, okay. I'm gonna wait for maybe a couple people to show up before I start saying some things. Just reading a little colon health. Oh. Hello, welcome. Okay, okay. All right, thanks for coming in, guys. This is my first live, first of many, I hope. So I'm just gonna start off by reading a little bit here about fiber, just to start off. To be able to replenish and reinvigorate cells and tissues, food must contain life-giving properties. Certain foods cleanse and remove obsolete cells and pilot this waste matter to the colon for evacuation. Fiber is so essential for proper and complete digestion of our food. It is needed in the colon just as much as the small intestine. Fiber passes through the intestines. It becomes, figuratively speaking, a highly magnetized in its capacity. It is very helpful in supporting the actions of various parts of the intestine. In addition to receiving the food residue that is not digested, the colon accommodates the fiber in food, which functions as an intestinal broom. So in my opinion, and through this research, this is why fiber is super, super important in our diet. More people should focus on fiber than they ever should protein. And how do you get fiber? You're gonna get it through fruits, vegetables, and if needed, you can supplement with psyllium husk. I guess I'm gonna start talking about weight loss and fat loss. And if you guys have any questions that I've never addressed or you've asked in comments before and you're still wanting to know, please let me know in the comments below. Hello. So fat loss and weight loss, it's easy to lose weight. All you have to do is calorie restrict. All you have to do is go on some crash diet. All you have to do is starve yourself. All you have to do is just encumber the body with something that you don't really want. Whereas fat loss, in my opinion, and from my experience, because I did rebound and I did regain some weight that I thought was unnecessary, and I did eat a little bit too much fat when I was eating my way back and having to repay the calories that I did when my metabolic rebound was happening. I could have eased up on the fat, but I didn't. So it's just, in my opinion and from my experience, that you need to limit the amount of fat that you're having, especially if you're on a high carb diet, because sugar, carbs and fat, they don't go together. I get hungry and I eat lots of juices, fruits, candy. However, the volume of food tend to give me an acid reflux. How can I fix this? I get hungry and I eat a lot of juices. Okay. What were you eating before? I eat a lot of juices, fruit, candy. Maybe you should be supplementing with more fiber. Maybe you should be having more fiber-rich foods if you're feeling like you're not getting enough from the juices. That's a lot of people's problem, I find, and even raw people complain about this, that they don't feel full if they're just having juices. So maybe you need more smoothies in your life, you need more bananas in your life, and maybe ease up on the candy. I don't know where you live. Like, I was eating candy in my last video. That was the first time I've eaten candy in 2 months. And it's not something that I eat regularly. And I think that the sugar diet really did highlight everyone just indulging in these things that they haven't had for a long time. Moderate fat, high protein, high carb before. I'm skinny and I don't feel hungry anymore. Is it from the calorie restrictions? Yeah, so maybe ease up on the candy, in my opinion. You're in the States. I have no idea what the food additives are for that, and just highly processed food. I mean, refined sugar is different than candy, right? So maybe you should have more sugar in your smoothies, more fiber in your life. And in the evenings, are you having starches? Are you having potatoes? Are you having rices? Are you having beans? Are you having tofu? Yeah, calorie restriction is a huge problem. These are two different people I'm kind of looking at here. You need to eat more. You need to eat more if you're feeling like you're too slim. You have not enough lean muscle mass. You need to work up to a bigger appetite, I suppose. And that's, in my opinion, high fiber food, hydrating food like fruits, and then having like some sort of like broom salad or potatoes and rice at night. Yeah. Moderate fat, high protein, and high carb before. So that's more like how the sugar diet was promoted in the beginning, was that it was like have the lean proteins and have the high carb, and they were not so worried about the fat, and they didn't limit it like I have to 20 grams or 10 grams of fat a day. Fibers, less candy. Yeah, I do fine with starches. I use higher sugar during the day while at work because it's the convenience. Yeah, me too. I find it's just so much easier to have like a big sugary hydrating smoothie, and then I can continue to have like juice or supplement with fruit. I mean, I've been having some like dried fruit. I've been having these like little apple things. They're literally nothing though. There's not a lot of calories. It's more of just of having a texture. But you have to change something if it's not working. If you're hungry, you need to eat more. Or if you're not getting enough calories and you're not hungry at the same time, like, you know, maybe not pushing yourself to the point where you feel like you're out to here and you're bloated. Like, that's not healthy either. But I needed to do that because I had shrunk my organs so badly in the starvation that I went through calorie restricting, that I needed to eat and eat and eat to finally get myself to a balance of food. Hey, thanks for coming, everybody. I see there's like 19 people here, which I'm like super surprised, but thank you all for being here. So more about the fat loss and weight loss, I suppose in my mind, it was the consistency that kept me losing weight. And it wasn't because I was going hard at the gym every day. It wasn't because I was smashing the cardio every day. It was because I was hydrating and getting enough sleep and eating enough and being consistent. It might be boring and it might seem like you're not getting that like dopamine rush of like the results of the things that you see of people online, which I think is so infuriating in a sense. Like when we constantly loop and scroll and watch how these people have such like great stories from beginning to end, and then you feel like you're in the middle and you're not quite sure what's going on. If you don't have faith in yourself and you don't have faith in the research that you've done, it's going to be hard for you to continue on this diet, especially if you're not seeing results right away, which everyone expects. And something that I am noticing when I'm looking at other diets is that they say the same thing, that it takes a little while. And I've heard people go on carnivore for 6-8 months, up to a year, and they still don't see the results that they want to see, and they still have the digestive issues, but they're like putting their full faith in this thing, even though it's not really helping them in any way. I don't think high carb, low fat is ever going to take you that far to start seeing some kind of results, but you have to be real with yourself. If you're actually keeping it low fat, if you're actually eating enough, if you're hydrating before your meals, and if you're prioritizing your sleep and some sort of exercise. I was kind of surprised also putting out this questionnaire to see, it was kind of a joke, but most people did vote for how do I do the sugar diet with 0 to no exercise. So I would ask these people, like, what do you expect your life to be like? And what do you think being a man and a woman is? Like, God did not create us to be stagnant and do nothing and lay around. So I find like, okay, today I didn't do much. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't go to the sauna, but I did do a lot of errands around the house and I did take care of those things. But it wasn't like I was doing squats and it wasn't like I was lifting weights, but I was active during my day. So I think some people either over exercise and overtrain and don't get the rest and recovery and the calories that they need. And then there's people who are a little bit maybe overeating to the point where like their BMR, like, because people think that exercise is why we burn calories, and most of the calories that you burn are when you're sleeping, when you're resting, when you're blinking, when you're eating, when you're digesting. Like these things take calories for you, energy. It takes energy for these things to happen. Yes, I voted for that way because I'm a very active person and I think the diet works better than keto, for example. Yeah, even if like I've not personally seen results because I'm not someone that is stagnant all day, but I have seen, and hopefully these are true, through other people who promote high carb, low fat, that they have done nothing really. They say that they don't exercise, but they still lean out on this diet. But they don't have the muscle tone, the lean body mass, or any kind of fitness. So for me, especially now that I have the energy to do it, I love doing something with this energy that I have. Like I love going out and going to the gym. I love playing basketball. I love playing soccer. I love playing volleyball. I love the competition of sport, and I think it's really good for your mental landscape as well. So going to the gym and just like doing Bulgarian split squats and just getting on the machines and just kind of like monotonously doing things, and running on a treadmill is so boring for me. Like running outside is so much better. You get so much more stimulus and it's so much more natural. Even if you're just walking outside rather than the treadmill or doing the elliptical or whatever. But the weather isn't always nice. It's not always a perfect sunny day where you can get outside. So that's why the gym is important to me, and I think it's important to other people to have. Another thing is like when you do go to the gym, like what are you really doing with your time? Because I see lots of people just sort of like chit-chatting and blah de blah. They're on their phone between sets and they're texting and they're scrolling and they're doing things. Like when I go there, like I feel like when I'm on the rowing machine, like I'm being like very competitive with myself and I'm pushing it really, really hard. And I see other people looking at me like, wow, she's crazy, because I'm like I'm really breathing because I want to exhale as much fat as I can. So it's important for me to uptake oxygen and put it out there. I pee so much. I pee too much. Pee is decreasing my calories. I find that there's like an adjustment period. I know I mentioned I'm gonna make a short about like, are you hydrated enough? Why are you peeing so much in the nighttime? Why am I drinking so much? And it is something that I am, yeah, if I have to go pee, I go pee. But like for the first 6 months when I was on this diet, I didn't have access to a toilet, meaning like I lived on the beach, I lived in a tent, and I somehow peed on the beach, I peed at the park, I peed at McDonald's. I made it work. And I find that if I'm busy doing something, I don't really have to pee, if that makes any sense. Like that's the kind of the last thing on my mind. So if you're not doing much and you're drinking a lot, there might be a problem. I've also heard now, and I'm gonna have to do some more research into this, that like the salt is making us pee a lot. So you will pee out excess sugar, but you will pee out excess salt too. So like it's interesting to hear that from a fruitarian that I was just sort of looking at today, that they're waking up without any sort of like eye crusts or any mucus or any salt residue coming from their eyes because they have eliminated all salt. And when I say get rid of salt, I don't mean naturally occurring sodium. You can't really live without that, right? Like that's in your fruits, in your veggies. There's salt and starches. There's pretty much sodium in all whole foods. So you can't really eliminate that without completely restricting your calories and sort of having a very vitamin and mineral deficient type diet. So that's if you were just having like sugar water, right? And like nobody's doing that, and I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. It's a very low budget diet, and if it's the only thing that you can afford, I'd much rather that you squeeze some lemon juice in there or something to get you going. Unfortunately, I love salt, and yeah, it is a huge stimulus among people, and something that I do find, because I will watch these people do mukbangs and stuff just to see what their complexion is like, just to kind of see what their aura is like, just to kind of see what their vibe is like. And every time these people put up food, they're like this. They're totally, this is the fries I'm gonna eat now, and they're so like over shaky and overstimulated from the salt. So it's something that you definitely can't just be like, all right, never gonna have salt again, because then you will rebound and you will get back onto it. So in my opinion, like, you gotta work your way down, and salt holds water, and especially it holds water like around the kidney area, and that's a lot of like that muffin top thing or whatever people talk about. So that's you not being able to excrete salt well, and it would probably come out in your skin somehow. I think there's a lot of like eczema, rosacea, dry skin, any kind of like moles and freckles that are showing up, and this is a signal, because your skin is like your third kidney, that something is wrong with the way that you handle salt. With the master fast system, I do not know exactly what is the master fast system, but I am familiar with fasting. You can definitely find videos of me talking about that. I'm on high carb, low fat, Harley protocol. My appetite is really huge over. You don't have your period back. Okay, so I never lost my period, thankfully, but that's because I had blackout points of where I would just eat anything that was in front of me. So I'm not sure if you are coming from like, are you very thin and you want to gain some weight? Harley always suggests that you add some fat into your diet. My appetite is really huge over. That's hard to say. I'm not losing any weight, and I don't my period back. I'm sorry, it's a little hard to understand exactly what you're saying. How long have you not had your period? I would, like Dr. Morse said, for example, like if you, or I think maybe it was John Rose, either way, it doesn't matter. They said, oh, if you're having struggles with your period, but they also promote like that not having a period is okay, which I think is ridiculous. But they would say, just have a cheese pizza and you'll get your period right away. For me, I'm eating high carb, low fat, and I am like consistent as consistent gets. I'm more consistent than I've ever been. And my period is about 4 to 5 days, which I think is extremely good in the healthy range. The color is like bright red, and everything is good. Yes, I'm just gonna, Rebecca, I think you're doing great. Every time I eat 3,000 calories, I gain weight. Yeah, so you're about 6 inches shorter than me. And I think you're doing some sort of activity. I think that you're not just sitting around all day. So you have to find what works for you in the calorie range. And if you're looking to lose that last little bit, you have to really be consistent with the fat restriction, in my opinion. Now, other people will say that you don't need to do that, but from the results that I've gained over time and from the metabolic rebound that I experienced, yes, I think that I had to like eat my way up to 3,000 something calories, but some days I'm not doing that anymore because I have leveled out my metabolism, and now I think I can use energy a lot more efficiently. So do what's right for you. Like, I'm doing what's right for me. I'm showing you what's good for me. And then you can sort of pick, choose, emulate, recreate, and find a way to make the high carb, low fat work for you. Yesterday I ate around 50 dates and other things. I went from keto carnivore 6 months to gain 12 kilo fragile. I recently heard the claim that there are fat oxidizers and slow oxidizers. One needs protein, low protein. Have you heard about this? Yeah, the protein for me is not something I ever count at this stage of my time, but I will have beans once in a while. I will have tofu once in a while, but it's not like I sit there and go like, hi, I'm really craving some protein. So this is some programming from the carnivore and from the keto and from like every other influencer online who is even raw vegans going for high protein too. I think you need to prioritize making your meals like either simpler and finding something that you can do like day in and day out. And then if it doesn't make a difference and it doesn't change anything, then you have to modify. You have to modify what you're doing. I am not like a medical doctor, guys. I am just talking about what I think works and what my opinion is and what the research that I've done, and I've kind of compiled that and putting it on my channel. So if you've lost your period on keto carnivore, like that is mind blowing to me. I've never heard something like that before. And having 50 dates, like that sounds like a heck of a lot of calories. So are you hydrated enough? Like, are you getting any sleep? Like, stress has a huge factor in our lives, and I really hope I'm giving you something that you can work with or something that ignites a fire for you to change. I'm sorry, guys. There's so much stuff coming through now. There's a lot of questions. Do you have liver flushes? No. I now avoid like any dogmatic protocol, and people tell me that I'm dogmatic, but I just find that whatever I'm craving or whatever is in season, like I've been having a lot of apples and celery for the last couple days. Like I haven't had sticks of celery for months and months and months, but it's something that I'm like, yeah, I need some celery, and it has a sweetness to it. So it's just something. How tall am I? I'm 5'8", which is like 173 centimeters. And I'm somewhere around 65 kilos, which I think is 140 something, 45 pounds. I'm pretty sure that my BMI is in the 21, maybe 22 range, which is somewhere in the healthy range. So I used to be 114 pounds when I was at my lightest, and at my heaviest, I was like 180 pounds, which you can see in the pictures and videos that why I failed as a fruitarian. Hamza, yeah, I don't know. Listen, losing your period, I think, is a huge signal that something is going wrong with the body. Are you having like regular bowel movements, and are you having any fiber? I find that most of the problems that come from our body, at least when in my experience, this is why I went to fruitarian and raw, was because I was like so heavily constipated. So, and I had very heavy periods. So this might be different in an experience from you, but 50 dates is a lot, but it's not a bad thing. But make sure that you're hydrating as well, because they are a very dense calorie, small food. I stay with juice, rice, sugar. So yeah, if you were coming from, if anybody was coming from any kind of restriction, if anybody was coming from any kind of fasting, you probably will have these weeks or months where you're just like, I cannot stop stuffing my face with carbs. And this is because we were carb starved. We were literally undercarbed for years, for months, for whatever. And I was just kind of watching a Professor Spira video today from 10 years ago, and the guy just seems like he can't form a sentence if God helped him. Like, it's just, he's focused on fasting, and he's focused on colonics, and he's focused on mucus lean, mucusless type foods, which is like great, but at the same time, like, are you eating enough to the point where you feel like you have like this energy that you would like to do something with your day other than worry about food? And you know what I mean? Like that's where you know when you're doing the right thing, is when you feel like, all right, I'm gonna wake up, I got like a good vision in my head, I have a good energy in my mind, and then it's like I'm gonna eat and drink as it goes, and I'm gonna go take care of the things that I have to take care of, whether it's family, whether it's playing sports, whether it's work, whatever it is that gets you out of bed. That's the stuff where you know that you have the right amount of energy. And if that is lacking, that kind of like lust for life, and this is not every day, you know, like everybody has their ups and downs, and everyone has stresses in their life, and everyone has things that they have to take care of. But for the most part, are you happy to be here and like doing something? That's when you know that you're eating right, and that you're sleeping right, and you're hydrated enough, and that you've got some sort of body movement. Because this world that we live in is like, wants you to just lay down and do nothing, which is a very sick sort of mindset, and it's very helpless sort of mindset in my mind. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. There's a lot of questions. What are your thoughts on carnivore doctors that feel great eating strict carnivore? Scared of iron overload. I ate a lot of meat, and I was iron deficient for a lot of the blood tests that I had in my life. And these carnivore doctors, like, I have yet to find one that like doesn't look like they're on TRT. And you know, like I was watching some Paul Saladino today, and the guy just looks like he is blasting Adderall. Like they're just hyper and crazy, and it seems like they're just so overstimulated from the salt and from the meat. And like, you do you. If like you want to keep eating meat, like I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I'm just telling you my experience. But it in my mind, it's like you're just eating this dead being, and you're eating the trauma that thing went through, and you're eating the hormones, and you're eating the antibiotics and the steroids and the thing that thing was put through. Right now, it's very hard to trust anything that's in the grocery store, and I'm seeing forums from like Facebook where I live in Canada, and people are talking about how awful the meat smells. And I've seen influencers open a package and go like, I don't know, it smells okay, I guess I'm gonna put it in the pan. And it's like, oh, it's just, I worked at a butcher shop for 10 years, and there was lots of questionable things that went out on the counter, and that was years ago. So, and there was lots of lying where it was like, yeah, this is AAA grade A beef, and it's like, it's from the States, but we are in Canada, and it's all Canadian beef. So it's like, for me, I just can't, I can't do it anymore. I won't do it anymore. It doesn't serve me. There is nothing that I can't get from fruits and vegetables that is in the meat. The number one thing that carnivores and all of them come out with is how nutrient dense the food is, and they never tell you what the nutrients are. It blows my mind. And there are plenty of guys online that say like, raise your testosterone, guys, just go on like the meat and fruit diet. And there's no numbers, there's no age, there's no comparison of what my testosterone was before and after. It's just a bunch of people parroting each other, and it's like this like cycle of that. And like I do think a lot of these carnivores are doing some sort of like hair dye, and their chest is always beet red. You know, like this is a clear sign that you are on some sort of hormone replacement therapy or on some like TRT or something. Yeah, and then eating the raw meats and the Severage and the Goatus or whatever he is, and it's like the guy looks like he's just dying for a grain of rice. I watch these people to just see how their vibration is. There's a lot to learn from watching these people, and it's so unfortunate that they just think like, brr, 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 we're just ancestors and we're just gonna kill everything. It doesn't make any sense. We are much brighter than that. We are a lot smarter than that. And And to think that it's just like, you gotta, some guy has been arguing with me in the comments that there's no quick carbs available in nature, and like never heard of honey before. And that like, if I went in the forest, I'd be able to find a quick source of fatty meat. And it's like, yeah, cool story. You gotta like skin it, gut it, hang it. Like there's so much preparation involved that it's just so beyond that. Okay, I'm gonna stop this rant. Sorry. Yeah. Can you please tell me? Carnivore diet gets you more animalistic in a state of being. Yeah, I think it really lowers the vibration, and it kind of like they just breed into each other's ideas. And you could say this about raw vegans, and you could say this about all this stuff. That's why I like to be flexible and practical, and I'd like to give you the tools. I would like to tell you my experience in the sense of you can learn from it and maybe emulate it. And I know I've said this already in the video, but it's important that you really take a look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, what am I doing this for? Like, why do I care about losing weight? Is it because I want to feel better? Is it because am I doing it for somebody else? Am I doing it for attention? Am I doing it so that I look like Kim Kardashian? Like, what am I losing weight for? You know, like, why? Why are you doing this? It should be a form of self-love, in my opinion, because if I never clicked on to that, then I wouldn't be in the position that I am right now, and I wouldn't be able to like come here, talk to you guys, have the confidence, and like have the oomph to like do it, because I would be, I don't know, I would be sad without the food that I have right now. Yeah, there's never been a society of vegans. I mean, says who? Like, I have only the experience of when I was born, and I don't remember anything from the day I was born, you know? Like, I only have a few memories. I have a hard time with the record of history and all of these things. Like, history is written by the winners, and there's only so many things that we can take as truth, really, and you have to kind of embody what it is. So if there's never been a society of vegans, doesn't really matter to me. I've been thriving and feeling much better than I ever have, eating a standard American diet, eating a calorie restrictive diet, eating a diet where it was just like whatever was in front of me, I was putting it in my mouth without any sense of why. Starch and sugar, just want to sleep. I'm gaining weight. Yes, so I do think that there's like a fatty liver issue here, and there's not enough people talking about their colon health. So thinking about this, like, you have to imagine how much, in my mind, how much sludge might be in your intestines. And so you aren't even able to absorb the nutrients that you are eating because your colon has been lined with slime, mucus, in my opinion. So, calorie deficient diets work until it doesn't. Yeah, and nobody is able to maintain a cal deficient. They always want to go back to a maintenance calorie, and then they lose the trimness that they were looking for. I do think that if you're like heavy on the starches and heavy on the sugars, but you're not losing the weight, are you sleeping enough? Are you hydrated enough? And are you really keeping it low fat? Because if you're having meat sometimes, then you're not really doing it. If you're having fish sometimes, then you're not really doing it. That's my opinion, that's my experience, because I've never went back to meat. I did have like dairy and cheese when I first came to Europe in 2023, and when I needed to gain weight, and it could have been done with olives, it could have been done with avocados, but I did it with dairy, and then I ended up gaining too much, and I ended up getting like a ton of acne on my face and all over my body, and developing like a lot of freckles and stuff from the sun. So, you know, you have to really look at yourself and say, like, am I doing this correctly? Like, am I doing this even for a week? Even for a week without screwing up. Yeah, the gut microbiome is very important. Yeah. And if you've never done a colonic, I would implore you to do one. You know, I don't care if you're keto, carnivore, starving, raw vegan, whatever. I think everybody could do it because we have grown up in such a modern and sick society, in my mind. What are your thoughts on Ray Peat's way of eating? Sounds like you're doing something similar. Yeah, but Ray Peat, but now I don't have that dairy. Like, now I'm not having that stuff. So Ray Peat, to me, like, he doesn't look extremely fit. I think he's like super close, but he mixes like the orange juice and the eggs and the cheese, as far as I understand from the couple things of research that I've done on him. But I don't think that Ray Peat has the results that I'm looking for, so it's not something that I gravitate towards. I've had many people comment that I am doing the Ray Peat diet, but I'm not. I am the closest protocol that I'm going for is definitely Harley's protocol. And, you know, all of these like women that he has trained have all become something because of his protocol. Freely wouldn't be able to do what she does today if she didn't have the hand of Harley, you know, bringing her through. And same with Natasha, and same with Michelle and all that. And Tori is now off the diet as far as I know, but she doesn't look bad as far as I can tell. But there's something to the high carb, low fat that has elevated me to the point that I feel a lot better, I sleep a lot better, I move a lot better, and it's working really well for me. And it's high sugar, and I'm trying to incorporate more fiber. And I do think that whole foods are better than processed foods, but it's like if you're in a bind and it's like, you know what, I feel like I'm a little bit undercarbed and the only thing that you can have is a piece of candy, you're gonna have that candy. It would be stupid not to, in my mind. But is it like I wake up and eat candy for breakfast and lunch? No, I don't do that. And I don't think that that's something anybody should aspire to do. Oh, Ray is dead. I don't even know. Yeah, that's how much I know about Ray Peat. I eat good amounts of fruit every day. Yeah, and this is the point, is to be like hydrated, because the aging and the dehydration from protein, from fat, because it sucks out the water to be able to put this through. So the hydrating foods of fruits, of juices, whatever, these type foods keep your skin nice and supple. Like, I don't use body lotion, ever. Never, ever, ever. I don't use makeup. I don't do any of that. And like, my skin is far better than it ever was when I was spending hundreds of dollars at Sephora and all this makeup. I'm putting like titanium dioxide on my face and I don't even know what else. Like, I spent so much boatloads of money for absolutely nothing, to actually disrupt and destroy my endocrine system. So, and I don't know how I feel about not eating meat ever, but I agree that sugar is life. Yeah, and like, this is a process, you know, like, I wouldn't advocate, I don't advocate for mixing sugar and meat, but if you're happy doing it, like, what am I gonna tell you, you know? Like, you're here, you're watching my channel, I've never said like, guys, we should put meat and sugar together. It's not my thing. It never will be. Yeah, the shaving. Yeah, that's okay. Like, you know what? I've done all of it. I did the sugaring, I did the threading, I did the waxing, I did the shaving. It's just, I don't think that shaving makes you sexy or it makes you more desirable to a man. In my mind, it's like, a man doesn't look at a girl and go like, oh, you know what? She doesn't shave. It's either like you're attracted or you're not, you know? You either have that kind of aura or you don't. And I do think it puts people off because we've all been just so programmed to just look like each other or do what a celebrity is doing or do what the commercial says is appropriate. And, you know, that's not really a diet topic, but and yeah, ancient Egyptians were shaving and this and that, and people came in the comments and told me all of this, and like, that's fine. I just think it's an unnecessary regimen for your day. And I think that our hair is part of our like antenna and biofield. And so I do think it's important to not disrupt these things. Like, hair is there for a reason, and I do think it's protective. So it's like the aesthetics of it, like meh, like doesn't really matter to me. Yes. Plant-based societies, yeah. Those are all vegan plant-based societies, thank you. Calorie deficiency. Yeah. Armpit hair is very unattractive. Okay. Thanks for coming. Why is it unattractive? Like, why? I don't know. There's tons of men that shave, and it's like, why? I don't understand. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, and I don't know any woman that likes to shave. Women have invested and bought into all these regimens, these beauty regimes of like the moisturizing and the this and the hair products and the straightening and the sprays and it's like I have a hard time going to the grocery store or like whatever, or going out in public and smelling the body spray and perfumes that people put on. It literally gives me a headache now. And I used to douse myself in Prada and Juicy and all this stuff, and it's just like, I don't know how I survived, and I was just so stuffed up. I was just, my body must have just been so rejecting everything that I was doing that I didn't even notice how bad this was hurting me. Meaning they ate meat. Who ate meat? Yeah, I don't think God created us to eat meat. He created us to have dominion and care over the animals, not to destroy them. They are there for their own reasons, and they are there on the world just as much as we are. And yet we are not carnivores. We don't have the mouth or the digestive system or the initiation to be a carnivore. If you are a real carnivore, you are eating raw meat, no problem. You are ripping it apart, no problem. And tons of carnivores still eat grass. Still eat grass to have that kind of digestive movement that they need. Dogma. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about my workout routine, because that was something that people were asking me to, instead of reading these comments about arguing. So when I do go to the gym, I try to push myself to the point where I feel like I've really done something with it, and I'm not just there to mess around and chit chat and do all of that. When I'm at the gym, I try to focus on doing something that pushes me to the point where I feel like I'm gassed out, whether it's the cardio or pushing it hard on the weights or squats or whatever I'm doing. So the upper body work, and it's just a matter of what is it called? I don't even know what it's called. Like, I have the higher weight, and then I lower it and lower it and lower it to the point where I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And I just think a lot of people, and I used to be like this sometimes too, or I would just do like 3 sets of something and then move on. I am a white belt. I do not have a ton of experience, but I do enjoy rolling, and I love being on the mat, and I am definitely outpacing and out cardioing a lot of the people there that are blue belt, purple belt, black belt. Like, I can hang with them in the cardio sense, but like, am I able to submit them? Like, no, but I can absolutely roll with them over and over again, and they're gassing out before I am. So that's why I go, is to like get the cardio and get that kind of like physical touch and get that like feeling of like wrestling or whatever, because I grew up with my dad and my brothers, and we would roll around all the time, and that was very fun for me. That was like, that really got the energy out for me, and it's like that competition, that like feeling of being alive. So I'm there to kind of try and get on top and try to just do something that gets me out of the like out of the position so I don't have to tap. And I find, yeah, like the cardio and the feeling of being there is more important. And of course I would like to progress and learn more, but I am not, I'm not a black belt or blue belt, even close to that. What do you think about plant-based sodium sources? Yeah, so like I said earlier, that the sodium within the vegetables, within the fruits, is the sodium that we need, and that is the proper amount that can be used in the cell. And I think that adding any salt is sort of unnecessary, but at this time, if you're using this asparagus salt instead of using sea salt or whatever, it's probably better. But at some point, it's up to you. It's up to you and your research and how you live your life. A lot of people think that salt is super, super necessary, and that like if they have some salt, then they just feel like, oh, I feel better. But it's a stimulant in my mind, and it gets people going. I eat sugar smoothies and meat in the evening, not much. Ghee or no ghee? Both, but I prefer no ghee. The soy that I have in my diet would be like some sort of, I don't even remember the last time I had edamame, but I guess it would be tofu. I'm not big on like soy milks or oat milks or any of this stuff. I don't even know what another like source of soy is that I'm having. Yeah, that would be it. Plant-based sodium. Perfumes are the worst. Yes, they are. Yes, what do you think of soy? Like, I think you can probably overeat it, but I don't see myself ever doing that, and I'm never feeling like I crave it. I blend my chicken. Okay. Got some trolls in the chat, as per usual. I don't, yeah, and I guess the sugar diet and not exercising, since this is like what most of the people voted for, I think it's totally a weak-minded type of lifestyle, and I do think exercise is important, but I also think that rest days are important. So when I say I go hard at the gym, then I rest. And maybe the next day I just do some sort of light cardio instead. So it's something that I offset. Now, I think men can go a little harder than women because they don't have the same hormonal cycle that I do. But I find that salt really hinders the weight loss. Yeah, rice is pretty bland without salt. Simple sugars is where it's at. Yeah, we don't use condiments in nature. True. And if you're finding that your rice is kind of boring, you can always make it sweet. You can always add some sort of like canned peaches, or you can add mangoes to it. You can add sugar to it. It's not the same as like having that savory tooth, but it is something that you can do as an alternative. Yeah, exercise is important. Of course it is. We're not meant to just be sitting around all day. So but I do think that if you over-exercise and you overdo it, especially as a woman, it can really hurt you. But that said, like when you are exercising, like, are you doing enough? Parasites feed on sugar. I don't know, man. Like, I have no way of really like doing that, like finding if the parasites feed on sugar. I have great bowel movements and I have great energy, and I don't think that the sugar is feeding the parasite. I think meat, okay, you leave a lemon on the counter, it's gonna take a long time for it to rot. You leave meat on the counter, there's gonna be maggots growing out of that thing like in a few moments. Like, throwing out the garbage at the butcher shop was like the most traumatic experience, because you would open it and it would be like, ugh, it would be coming alive to come get you. So, you know, I think there's a lot more to say about animal products causing sort of parasites in your body than sugar and fruit and smoothies. How can we pursue our passion and be creative if we're not carved up? They want us fat and sluggish. Yeah, parasites feed on waste. I'll agree with that. The nature argument is weak. I don't know what you're referring to. Yeah, my blood work, the last time I got my blood work done, and like the first time I've had my blood work done was last August. And I'll probably eventually do that again when I'm back in Canada, but it's not something, you can check that video. Everything was fine. But I have nothing to compare it to. Like, I wish I got some blood work done when I was fasting and aspiring to be a raw fruitarian. I really wish somebody was like, you know what, you look really freaking unhealthy, so let's go get some blood work done to prove that your diet is not working and your calorie restriction isn't working and your fasting isn't working. No, I'm not the daughter, but it was my first job and I worked there for 10 years and they're great people, but yeah, it had a huge like impact on my mind of being like, yeah, this is normal. This is like, people come shopping here and this is normal and this is how it is. And just like dealing with dead meat every day. It was just something that was normal. I usually don't eat cooked food until the evenings. So if I'm having smoothie, I guess that's raw. Sometimes I'll just eat raw vegetables for fun. I'll have some celery or carrots, like what's up, doc, and that. But I guess it would be like 60-40, let's say. You know, that might be a good number. Have you ever heard of not feeling energy after just eating fruit? I have to add starch to feel energy. Have you heard of this? Personally, when I do have like just fruit, like I'm like ready to go, but I think because I've been doing this for a while, my body is like ready for that. So if you feel better with the glucose type, like starch, that's great. Maybe it's your blood sugar regulating. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't think it's a bad thing. You're still making it high carb, so you're on the right track. Keep going. One meal a day, not into it. Unless you consider having juices and fruits and things all day as not really meals, but yeah, I would never go back to that. I did do that for some time, even before 2020 with the raw vegan fruitarian type lifestyle that I was aspiring to be. But I was on like a keto type diet and I was trying to do one meal a day, but I just found I was so freaking nuts and nervous and anxious and miserable and obsessed and also telling everybody that I'm on keto, blah, and it's just like, it's just no way to live. And everybody, like every animal in nature is looking for food. Like chickens and pigeons, like they're not on a one meal a day diet, and a one meal a day diet would kind of be very carnivorous. Like, and then what do carnivores do all day? What does a lion do all day? It sleeps like 20 hours. So when people talk about the carnivore diet being like so optimal, it's like, what are you guys talking about? Optimal if you're sleeping all day. Optimal if you want to do nothing all day. It doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, all the animals that are like cows eating grass all day, horses give me some carrots, give me some apples. They're not like, you know what, guys, like I'm on a one meal a day diet and I'm calorie restricting. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You put a bunch of bananas in front of a gorilla, he's gonna eat them. He's not gonna be like, oh guys, I'm on a diet. So yeah, that's not for me, and I don't think it's for men and women either. I don't eat eggs, and I will have beans, but I don't have them every day, and I try not to make them like, if you're having beans, I would say like make them 30% of the plate. Don't make them like 50-50 with the rice and beans. How do you feel on breatharian? Yeah, honestly, you should go through my videos because I've talked a lot about this. We we might have been breatharian at one point, and I thought one day I was going to be breatharian, but I will never think like that again. We are not breatharians. There is no way that I'm just going to absorb all the nutrients that I need from the sun and the air. We don't live in a world that supports that. I'm really happy that I got off of like a carnivorous diet and I'm onto a vegetarian vegan diet, which is the steps of this. I'm sure you're referring to something like this Hilton Hotima book, which I read and I was very hooked into, and everybody that I was talking to on Instagram at the time was, you know, pushing it and putting it on their stories and stuff, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for mental health and capacity. Like I was a lot dumber when I thought that I could be a breatharian. I was a lot less functional in the real world. And I was very nervous and very anxious all the time. And I was still using caffeine. So it was like, yeah, I'm not on any coffee, and it's like almost 7 o'clock here. And I haven't had any coffee today. No stimulants today. So yeah, I don't recommend these restrictive, breatharian type, even like raw vegan fruitarian. Like it might work for somebody that's been doing high carb for like a decade and then, or even longer. And then they say, you know what, I'm going to switch to fruits, but you have to make sure that you're eating enough calories, and you have to make sure that you have changed the physiology of your body from being carnivore to being vegan to being fruitarian. I am nowhere near that, and the activity level that I demand from myself requires that I'm on a high carb, low fat, practical diet that includes mucus forming foods like starches, and it requires very hydrating foods like fruits and juices and smoothies and things like this. I would say, yeah, if the 60-40, meaning like, yeah, 60 raw, hydrating fruits, vegetables, and maybe like 40% starch. But that's just like a guesstimate. I really, because I'm having mostly 2 meals, or throughout the day I'm having as much juice and fruit and jam or baby food or whatever fruit, applesauce that I want, and sugar, and having like sugar water and lemon as much as I want. And then at night I'm having some sort of like starch, which sometimes I'll have a salad, I'll have some raw food with it. So it's hard to say because every day it does change and the seasons do change. And I think I do kind of like gravitate towards like more beans or things like this and stews and like tomato sauces and things like this, and pastas in the winter time than I would in the summertime, when it's like so hot that you just want something refreshing and you would just rather have like a nice salad with some, but I'm still gonna have the sweet potato or whatever with it, but it's not just like so heavy as like a pasta sauce or like a stew. Counting calories, macros. So the counting calories, I don't count calories unless I'm doing it for the channel to tell somebody that to tell you guys how much calories I'm having, just to prove that I'm like eating this much. I never count calories on the days that I'm just living, and I think counting calories is sort of part of this diet culture. I think we should only count calories to make sure that we're having enough. And then once you figure that out, I don't think you need to count calories anymore. And I think it can get really obsessive. Like even at one point, you know, I was wearing that Garmin for a little while, and it was like checking everything. And it's like, who gives a shit? Like, this thing is probably wrong anyway about my sleep metrics and about my VO2 max and about this and about this. I really only wear it now when I'm playing sport, so I can track how many miles I ran and then be like, all right, that's interesting. So it's useful and useless at the same time, because once you figure out what works for you energy wise, I don't think that you need to be counting calories. And I have fasting and 1 meal a day, and I'm on high carb, low fat, and everything is great. My question is, coffee okay with a bunch of sugar? You know, Ray Pete will tell you that that's okay. I haven't had coffee now since April of 2023, so I don't think you need coffee on this diet, and I think it really rocks your adrenals. And as far as like getting your organ health in check, I think coffee should be left off the table. But you will probably go through a withdrawal like I did. For 2 weeks, it was pretty bad. I had headaches and I wanted to have that coffee and I wanted to go back to having the Americano and everything else. And I used to be able to drink coffee and fall asleep right after. So that's how bad, my adrenaline and my adrenals were working, and my thyroid and everything else. Like, yeah. And yeah, my blood test says that my TSH is great. My blood test says that my thyroid is great. Like my blood test, everything is in the optimal range. So like I don't know what else to say, right? Like I'm gonna go get another blood test one day just to keep up and see how things are going, because all of you are very interested and it's interesting content, but it's not something that I'm going like, you know what, I need to get a blood test. And like my own mother was a medical lab tech, and she would take my blood all the time when I was a kid just to check if everything was okay. So when I was a kid, she would notice that like I'm tired or things aren't going right and blah, blah, blah. And she would take my blood, and then it would end up being that most of the time she said it was that my iron was pretty low, and I was eating lots of red meat. I was eating lots of red meat as a kid. So since you've added more rice, blah, sorry guys. Right now I'm in Europe. Yeah, right now I'm in Europe, and I also am in Canada sometimes, and I'm hoping to also travel other places so you guys can see that. And I haven't needed coffee, yeah. So I just think if you want to get off coffee, you're going to want to have more carbs. That's a simple way to put it. Yeah, I think if you can drink coffee and sleep, like that's very interesting, because most people use coffee as a stimulant. So I don't think it's good. I don't think you can have coffee and fall asleep right away. There's something wrong there. I've added more rice, 4 tablespoons of sugar to my diet. I'm craving coffee. Yeah, I believe that. Thank you for answering. I do consume low-fat dairy as well. I do love Ray Peat approach as well as... Yeah. I've already kind of addressed this. Like I think that Ray Peat is on the high carb platform in a sense, but he does include animal foods, which I'm not doing. So I wouldn't say that we're aligned in that sense. I've been coffee free for 2 months and never going back. And I think coffee, like, it's addictive. Like, so anything that you feel like you can't function without is essentially changing who you are as a person. So when I got off coffee, I changed. Like I've said this before, so I'm so sorry if you guys are bored of this, but it's like when I was having coffee, I was a nervous wreck. I was also working 6 days a week, and I was pushing myself at my business, and for what? Not for anything that is of value in my mind and in my life now. But I was having so much coffee, and I would have coffee fasted, which a lot of keto people do. I know there's some carnivores that don't advocate for coffee or whatever, but I know that the keto world is very coffee dense, and it's just like having coffee on an empty stomach, and it's just so bad for you. I would just immediately start sweating from my armpits. And I would just be so like, the phone would ring and I'd be like, it just made me a little bit insane in my mind. Yeah, and it's hard to quit. Yeah, and I know people that'll never do it, and there's people that live to their 95 and they have coffee every day, and people have their Balkan breakfast and they smoke their ciggies and they live their life. But it's just like, that's not the kind of life that I want to live. Like, I know that their skin looks horrible because they're dehydrated. Like, I know that their fitness level is not good. It's just once you go into something that is addictive, that changes how you feel, that changes how you function, it's really taking away from who you really are, in my mind. So it's hard to do, but anything worth doing is difficult in the beginning. It doesn't matter if you're trying to like learn a new skill or you're trying to get rid of the vices in your life, you know, like how many of you are smoking and drinking, you know, like how many of us are still having coffee? How many of us are practicing too much screen time or not enough activity or too much sedentary life? Or how many of us are letting the stress of other people and other people expectations run your life? And like how much faith do you have in your life, and how much do you respect yourself in the sense of like, this is what I really want, and I'm going to not let anybody or anything get in the way of me achieving what I want for myself and what I want for my goals. So what are your goals? Like, I would like to live, be happy, be healthy, and I don't want to rely on any kind of system or medicine or whatever. I want to be able to get my ass out of bed at 100 years old without any help, you know? I don't want to be in fear of falling in the shower or something like this. And I see people walk around in the streets, and it's like these women are 80 probably years old and they can barely walk, and meanwhile, like, some of the men that I play soccer with on the beach, like they're almost 80 years old and they're in fine shape. They're in fine shape, and they have the fish, and they have the whatever, they have the oil and all that, but their skin is just no good. And like, you know, they have their wine and all this stuff, and that's nothing against them. I don't hate anybody that does and has their own choices for their own body. It's just not for me. It's just not what I want. Yes, I have heard of Misfit Vegan. It's extremely addictive. Damn, I should quit coffee. Yeah, so I don't know. If there's any other questions, I'm gonna maybe wrap this up. I can't believe I've been on here for 66 minutes, just blabbing away. And I hope I helped somebody here with some questions. I might just call it, unless there's another couple questions. Yes, I am Christian. Very grateful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm surprised anybody even showed up. So I'm going to try and do more lives. If this is a good time, please let me know in the comments, like, because I am here, and I think it's like lunchtime in like the New York, Toronto area, and such as, I actually had a couple Brazil nuts the last couple days, but this is like the last time I had nuts was, I don't remember. And when I was first coming, in 2023, I would have a lot of peanuts too, because I didn't have access to a stove, so I would eat the peanuts, but I needed to gain a lot of weight. So there are some vitamins and minerals within nuts, but I think a lot of raw vegans rely on too many nuts, and they make all these like cashew creams and stuff, but I do like walnuts. I like the way that they taste, but I think you can have a handful of nuts and that's like way too much fat. So use them sparingly, and it shouldn't be like the first thing that you gravitate towards when you're hungry. You should probably go for a more hydrating meal or food. Omega-3s, yeah, these fatty acids and all this. There is fatty acids in food and fruits. Like that's fine for me. I don't have any omega-3 supplements. I don't think you need fish oil. I remember my brother, when the whole gym thing started with protein and creatine and all this, he would have fish oil, and it's like, I don't know. I think that's a whole big thing. People think our brain is made of fat, so we need to eat more fat, and I'm not on that vibe. Low fat doesn't completely eliminate fat, because there is fat within all whole foods, and it's in vegetables, in fruits, in starches, and they're in their whole form. Two of you to talk raw, starting to get more balanced eating. The time is okay in Netherlands. Yeah, same time as me. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave you guys with this. If you're struggling to quit something, the only way to do it is to go through. Nobody's gonna be there to hold your hand. Nobody's gonna tell you it's gonna be okay. You're just gonna have to do it, and it's gonna be hard, and it might suck, and you might have some withdrawals, you might have some headaches, and it's something that you will get out on the other side happier and healthier. So greetings from Argentina. Thank you so much. So, okay, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you all being here. I will be doing more lives. And yeah, that's all I have to say for now. I don't even know how to exit this, but we'll try. All right, thank you so much for being here. See you in the next one.